The powers of Ada, also known as the Valar, were in charge of the world under the supervision of InVader. They resided in Aman's western continent. The 14 Ainar, known as Valar, reached Ada after it had been created, having been shaped in Uru's mind, to bring about order and battle Melkor's new evils. They frequently referred to one another as brother or sister, and had assisted in the development of Ada through the music of InVader. With the exception of Melkor, who was at the time regarded as the strongest of the Ainur, each of the Ainur had contributed his own part to the song forming the world incarnate. He had a different idea of what Ada ought to be than Uru did, which resulted in his exile and a massive uprising that was to blame for the majority of the problems in the realm of Ada. Long before the awakening of the elves, the 14 Valar lived in Almaran, a secret island in the Great Lake. But after it was destroyed, the earth was remade. They moved to Aman and established the realm of Valinor. Despite infrequently directly influencing the direction of international events, they would come to be recognized as the powers of the world. Instead, Uru gave them a delegation from Ada. As a result, they built the Golden City of Valimar, their own homes scattered across the plain, and Mahanaxa, the Ring of Doom, where they would meet and hold council. On the continent of Valinor, their slaves were lower heavenly beings Uru made for them, known as maiar. The maiar, who were powerful despite being subordinate to the Valar, included Melian, Sauron, Orion, later known as Gandalf, and the other Starry, as well as those who would later become Balrogs. The majority of maiar were linked to specific Valar, Orsay and Unen, known as the powers of the oceans, served Ullamor, while Carakamor, who would later become Saruman, served Aul the smith. Sauron was a servant of Aul before Melkor corrupted him. Melkor initially intended to govern Ada alone, but Manwë, the highest Valar, summoned other spirits to assist him in battling Melkor. The Maiar and other Valar were among them. After the brief war for the sake of the elves, Melkor withdrew from Ada, and the Valar continued to create and furnish the world, while Melkor plotted his return and ascent to power. The two trees of Valinor gradually lost their light after he returned covertly and destroyed them with the Ungoliant, and the Valar then began to make the sun and moon in the sky. Fëanor's refusal to give up his Silmarils to the Valar in exchange for rekindling of the two trees sparked the War of the Jewels. He broke his and the Noldor's ties to the Valar and brought about a new battle between Melkor and the elves. The Hiding of Valinor was created by the Valar to shield their realm from Melkor, Fëanor, and their followers. The Valar quickly fortified their realm. At the height of the fight, when the Valar physically entered Beleriand, assisted in the defeat of Melkor's armies at Angband, and ultimately caught him, the conflict between Melkor and the Valar was finally concluded. After being brought to Aman, he was thrown behind the door of the night, for the great people of Edian, who had preserved and endured the fight against Melkor, the Valar rebuilt the island of Elnar in the middle of the sea during the Second Age. The kingdom of Númenor was founded on the island and existed there for 3 millennia until the monarch Ar-Pharazôn made an attempt to break the Valar's ban. The surviving Númenorians went eastward and colonized Middle-earth when the island was sunk by the Valar. The Valar dispatched an order of 5 maiar, the Starry, to Middle-earth when Sauron had started to take control of the region again, following his defeat in the War of the Last Alliance in order to fight Sauron until his ultimate demise. The abilities of the Valar were vaguely obscure, much like the other Ainar. The maiar possessed powers comparable to those of the Valar, such as controlling light and fire, changing into various forms, and taming men or elves with their mere presence. The winds and seas of Ada were under the dominion of Manwë and Ullamor, respectively. To illuminate much of Aman, Yavanna and Nina built the two trees, Lorlin and Telperion. Vada had the power to rearrange the stars into constellations that foretold Morgoth's destruction. The huge island of Númenor could have been lifted out of the sea by the Valar acting collectively. These are the names of the Valar as the Elder knew them. They were also known by other names with Sindarin roots in Middle-earth. Vada, for instance, was called Elbreth. They had numerous other names among them, and they occasionally venerated them as deities. Vada, the designers of the stars, was known to the elves as Elentari. The dwarves gave their creator, Alul, the name Mahal. Yavanna was the ents maker that they referred to as Kemenentari. The names given below are titles rather than actual names. The genuine names of the Valar are nowhere documented, with the exception of Rome. Female Valar are referred to as Ladies of the Valar, or Valir. The male Valar as Lords of the Valar. 6 of these are married, with just Ulmo and Maiar remaining unmarried. The 8 finest of the Valar were known as the Arta, or High Ones of Arda. Manwe, Vada, Ulmo, Ivana, Aul, Mandos, Naina, and Arom. The most potent of them all, Melkor, is not included. Being brothers, Loren and Mandos were collectively referred to as Fuentari, or Masters of Spirits. Earlier versions of the Legendarium frequently referred to the Valar as gods, and for a brief period of time, the names Valar and Valir stood as the male and female Valar, respectively. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe. Until the next time, on Middle-earth, InVader.